So does your brain protect you from pain? Now, that question, it sounds pretty simple, right? But the answer, well, the answer is so profound it could completely change how you think about your body, your mind, and maybe even your own reality.
Okay, picture this. During World War II, an anesthesiologist named Henry Beecher noticed something that just didn't make any sense. He saw soldiers with these devastating battlefield injuries, but they were often calm, saying they felt little to no pain. And yet back home, he'd see people with way less severe injuries who were in absolute agony. This wasn't just a small observation. It was a paradox that completely shattered our old understanding of pain, and really, it kicked off a whole scientific revolution.
And this very contradiction, this mismatch where the level of injury just doesn't line up with the level of pain, is what scientists now call the pain paradox. And to really get our heads around it, we have to toss out a really old idea.
For literally centuries, we all believed in this simple bell rope model of pain. You know, the idea was that an injury in your body pulls on a rope and then a bell rings up in your brain. More damage, a louder bell. Simple. But it turns out that's completely wrong. Pain is not a simple input from the body. It's a complex output from the brain. Think of it more like a super sophisticated alarm system that your brain decides to turn on based on its assessment of how much danger you're actually in.
And this brings us to probably the single most important distinction in all of pain science. You've got to get this. The raw electrical signal that zips up your nerves from, say, a stub toe, that's called nociception. It's just data. It is not pain. Pain is the conscious emotional experience your brain chooses to create after it interprets that data. And that, right there, is why you can have a massive danger signal with no pain, and, crazily enough, you can have a ton of pain without much of a danger signal at all.
Okay, so if the brain is the one calling the shots, how does it actually control what we feel? Well, it turns out our brain has this amazing physical volume control system built right into its wiring. Seriously, think of it just like that. Your brain has a network of neurons that is, for all intents and purposes, a volume knob for pain. It can get a massive danger signal coming in from the body and decide, nope, not now, and dial it all the way down to 0. Or it can take a tiny, almost insignificant signal and crank the volume up to a screaming, deafening 10. And what's so fascinating is that this is a top-down system. It all starts in this command center deep inside the brain that's constantly assessing the big picture. Is our survival on the line right now? From there, it sends a command down to a relay station in the brainstem, which then signals a gate in the spinal cord. And that gate, it can either slam shut, blocking the danger signal from ever reaching conscious awareness, or it can swing wide open and let it flood right through.
So how does the brain slam that gate shut? Well, it doesn't just use electricity. It deploys an unbelievably powerful chemical arsenal. It's not just a metaphor. You literally have a pharmacy inside your head.
And what's in this internal drugstore? Get this. Your brain produces its own versions of the most powerful painkillers on the planet. It makes its own opioids. You've heard of endorphins, right? That's them. It produces its own cannabinoids. Yep, the body's version of cannabis. It even uses neurotransmitters like serotonin to put the brakes on danger signals. This internal pharmacy is exactly how that soldier can ignore a life-threatening wound. His brain decided survival was more important than feeling pain.
So, okay, that's the hardware. Pretty cool, right? But what about the software? What's the logic the brain uses to decide when to open up that internal drugstore and turn the pain down? Well, it all comes down to one incredible thing: prediction.
This idea is called predictive processing, and it is a total game changer. Your brain isn't just sitting back, passively reacting to stuff that happens. No, it's actively, constantly making predictions about everything. And every sensation, every emotion you feel, including pain, is a construction. It's your brain's best guess about what's going on, based on everything you've ever experienced. Your brain doesn't just see reality, it literally creates it for you.
And we can actually see this prediction engine in action with the placebo effect. In this landmark study, they gave people a totally harmless cream, but told them it was a powerful painkiller. Then they applied a painful heat stimulus. And guess what? People didn't just say it hurt less. The incredible part is that brain scans confirmed it. The pain-related areas in their brains were genuinely less active. Their expectation of relief physically changed their reality.
This is so crucial. A belief isn't some fuzzy, magical thing floating around in your head. It's a biological event. The simple expectation that you're going to feel better is the trigger.
It's the signal that tells your brain to flip the switch, engage that volume control system, and start dispensing its own powerful internal painkillers.
But here's the flip side. If this system is so brilliant to protecting us, how does it go so terribly wrong? How do we end up with chronic pain? Well, it happens when this amazing protective system breaks down, when the alarm gets stuck in the on position.
This malfunction has a name. It's called central sensitization. It's basically a state of high alert, where the nervous system's volume knob gets jammed on high. The brain becomes so good, so efficient at producing pain, that it starts needing less and less of a reason to do it. Over time, the system literally learns to be in pain.
Now, this often starts with a real injury, but it's our thoughts and our behaviors that can lock it in place. It starts with catastrophic thinking, right? Oh no, my back is ruined forever. That creates fear. And that fear makes us avoid movement because we want to protect our body. But that lack of movement, that sends another powerful danger signal back to the brain, which makes it even more sensitive. It's this horrible, vicious cycle where fear is literally feeding the pain. And look, this idea that our body's structure is the main cause of chronic pain, this data just blows that out of the water. These are MRI scans from thousands of people with absolutely no pain. Look at this. By age 60, almost 90% of people show disc degeneration. These aren't signs of damage. They're just normal age-related changes. It's like getting wrinkles on the inside. They are not a life sentence of pain.
And that is why this quote is so perfect. Treating the scan instead of the patient is like treating a photograph instead of the person. If we only focus on the MRI, we often miss the real culprit, a super-sensitive alarm system, not a broken part in the body.
Now, all this might sound a little bleak, but it actually leads to an incredibly hopeful conclusion. Because if the brain can learn to be in pain, it can also be retrained. It can unlearn it. This number, 66%, is amazing. It represents the percentage of people with chronic back pain in a major study who became pain-free or pretty close to it after a treatment called pain reprocessing therapy, or PRT. This isn't about just managing pain. This is about eliminating it by literally retraining the brain. So how does it work? Well, the core technique is called somatic tracking, and it's a way to directly update the brain's old, faulty predictions. First, you just mindfully focus on the sensation, but with curiosity instead of fear. Next, you actively reappraise it. You consciously tell yourself, this is a false alarm. My body is actually safe. And finally, you just observe the sensation without judging it or trying to make it go away. By doing this over and over, you're separating the sensation from the fear, giving your brain new, safe evidence, and teaching it, over time, to finally turn that volume knob down. So let's really make this new understanding stick by busting the single biggest, most damaging myth about pain once and for all. Okay, the one myth you have to banish from your mind is that pain equals tissue damage. It doesn't. Hurt does not equal harm. Say it with me. Hurt does not equal harm. While your pain is always 100% real, it's a reflection of how much danger your brain thinks you're in, not how much damage your body has actually sustained.
And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway. The very same system in your brain that can learn fear and create years of chronic suffering can also be retrained to learn safety. The brain's incredible power to protect you can be harnessed to create not just pain, but a deep, lasting sense of well-being. And really, that understanding changes everything. So I'll leave you with this question to think about.